I definitely had bad calls for ETH specifically because I didn't think people would be so dumb. I just didn't think people would realize that, like, this thing's going to go up. And as the price goes up, the usage breaks. Like Ethereum doesn't work for normal people. It's only for whales and rich people. The best thing that we can do is buy and hold Bitcoin over long time frames and not get distracted. And some of the listeners listening to this might think, oh, this guy sounds crazy. Sounds like he's in a cult. But I mean, there's been a lot of Kool-Aid served up this year to convince people that NFTs are valuable and crypto DeFi is valuable and layer one tokens are valuable. And honestly, I do think we're going to see a continued long drawn out bear market, and people are going to we're just going to repeat the same cycle. I mean, we repeated the same cycle on the way up, and I was skeptical. I didn't think it was going to get back to insanity of 2017.
I think you called the top January 1st, 2021.
I did call the top, but I also called in July 2020, I said, look, this is going to get crazy. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're going to get real triggered.
Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. My name is Aaron. Our interview guest today is the great, the powerful Brad Mills. He is a Bitcoin OG, a Bitcoin capitalist. Some call him the Peter Schiff of DeFi. He has his own Bitcoin podcast. He's produced his own Bitcoin documentary. Brad Mills, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you could come on today because you have, maybe a counter narrative to much of crypto lately. You'd probably describe yourself as a Bitcoin maximalist. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little aside before we get going on it. I just got back from a doctor's appointment, and my family doctor here in Canada, every time I've been going in for the last, say, 2 years. Originally I went in to get some lorazepam, which is like a modafinil or a Advil for Ativan, and it's for stress, because I was so stressed out during the 2017 bear cycle and then crash, and holding shitcoin bags to zero that had all these utility narratives, and I was super stressed out during that 2018 bear market. And so I went into the doctor and I told him, because I was also doing Bitcoin investing, and I was working at a crypto fund in 2017 where we analyzed 60 ICOs, and I was on the ICO committee for the crypto fund, Alphabet, not Alphabet, Alphabet. And anyways, it was super stressful. So I got talking to him about Bitcoin. And in 2018, 2017, I started telling him, look, just buy Bitcoin. The other stuff is super risky. Don't get into the other stuff. And he's like, yeah, but Bitcoin's at $10,000. It's too expensive for me. And so I was like, dude, just dollar cost average into Bitcoin. You're a doctor. You're not going to become a full-time crypto trader. You spend most of your time being a doctor. So just do that and just save in Bitcoin. So fast forward to a couple of years, the beginning of 2021, I went back in to check on him. Thankfully, don't need the stress pills or anything like that, and things like that to handle the stress of these markets. But my doctor's like, hey, yeah, so I took your advice. I got some Ripple, I got some Dogecoin, I got some Ethereum. And I was like, whoa, dude, what are you talking about? I told you to go buy Bitcoin, just save in Bitcoin. And he's like, oh yeah, but these are all types of, they're like Bitcoin, but this one's for payments and this one's for smart contracts, and this one's Elon Musk is gonna pump it. And I'm like, no, man, you're gonna get wrecked. The SEC is suing that one. Elon Musk is just kidding about that one. You're gonna get dumped on by this one. So fast forward to a year later, about 6 months ago, I went into the office to check on him, and he's like, he needs the Ativan now. He's super stressed out. His Dogecoin is down 80%. His Ripple's down 90%. And he's like, I'm just going to sell everything. I don't want any Bitcoin. Everything is too risky for me. I'm like, you should have just listened to me. Look, here, I made this documentary, This Machine Greens, go watch it. Listen to my podcast, go follow Preston Pish and just follow Bitcoin information. You didn't miss it. It's not too late. It's never too late to start dumping shitcoins, but it's not too late right now to start buying Bitcoin. Think about it for the long term. So anyway, 6 months goes by again, just went back and visited him. he didn't even want to talk about it. He's like, I don't want to talk about Bitcoin or crypto or any of that stuff. So I think honestly, like that is probably the cycle that most people have gone through in the last few years trying to participate in crypto. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think like normies in your life, are they kind of experiencing the same type of thing?
I think I think that is relatable for sure. I think if you're going into meme coins or going into, highly centralized coins that are being sued by the SEC, you're definitely going to have a bad time. I think, I'm certainly not bearish on all of crypto. I remember being on a podcast with you it was either January of 2021 or December of 2020. We were on Tone Vase's podcast. There's a lot of people on that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, the epic stream.
Epic stream. And man, Ethereum had to have been like probably no more than $700 at that time. And, you came on and one of the things you said was like, hey, I'm very happy. I just sold all my Ethereum. I don't think that, I can't see anything besides Bitcoin doing that well, besides obviously things will pump with the market. But, I think for 2020 and 2021, that was an epic time to be in crypto.
It was, yeah. It's so like in July so here's the thing, like if you are a good trader and if you understand risk management and you don't drink the Kool-Aid and you don't like smoke the hopium, then I think there's potential for you to be able to make money hand over fist in bull markets. Like my daughter made in the 2017 run, she was 7 years old. She made like $10,000 buying Dogecoin on a 2x margin on Poloniex and just forgetting about it for 3 months. And then like we went back and checked on it and she's up $10,000 from like the original like $200 or whatever that I loaned her to play with. And there's more to that story. It's fun. She wanted to buy a bunch of iPad games and I was like, you got to work for it. You got to earn it. And she's like, well, why don't I do what you do, daddy? And I was like, all right, well, buy and hold some Bitcoin. She's like, well, what's this one? It has a dog picture. So she 2x large and margin long Dogecoin. And initially, actually, she got liquidated and she owed me $20. But anyways, that's the point of that is just like in cycles for sure. You can just throw an arrow and like get lucky in a bull market and make money. I really don't think that there's any difference between the narratives between Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, Doge Elon Mars, Cum Rocket, Aave, Curve, Ethereum, like Solana. In my opinion, nothing really mattered except the trend. And fundamentally, there is no real linkage between, say, like Ethereum's price and Dogecoin's price when it comes to utility. I mean, it's a gas token. Dogecoin actually might be more valuable because it's not meant to be anything. It's just like Bitcoin. It's decentralized, sort of. It's proof of work, right? I mean, it's a merge mind or whatever. It's Litecoin, Dogecoin, Monero. Coins like that are actually meant to be just like forks of Bitcoin, but more private or more fast or whatever. And Ethereum is actually meant to be smart contract fuel or whatever the narrative is at the time. So like originally it was immutability. It was unstoppable code. Code is law. And then the DAO hack happened and they kind of had to roll back that thing because it was no longer immutable. The clock for immutability was reset. And a lot of us gave up on the idea of Ethereum having long-term value back then at $20 because we said, well, if this is meant to be like Bitcoin, but for smart contracts and Bitcoin's immutable and decentralized, then who's going to want to value something that's not decentralized? Obviously, there's a lot of people out there that want to put their money into Ethereum thinking that they value the ability to get rescued from a hack or an exploit. And in the short term, I think that's what we saw with the first cycle with Ethereum, where it pumped from after the DAO hack to the end of 2017, where it was, $1,100 or whatever it was. And that was based off the hype of the ICO bubble. And there was no like, people aren't buying Ethereum because they want to have, I don't think anyways, that they want to have like a lot of credits for the smart contract fuel. It's like a buddy of mine on Clubhouse, Jimmy, has this analogy that's pretty accurate. It's if you think Shell is going to do really good or ExxonMobil is going to do really good, buying Ethereum because you think the Ethereum network is going to power a lot of dApps and power a lot of DeFi stuff, is the same as going to the gas station and just filling up a whole bunch of containers of gas thinking, well, because Exxon's going to have a great quarter, it's going to be a lot of people using gas, I'm going to go buy a whole bunch of gas. It logically, like, it's connected to the network usage of Ethereum is not really connected to the Ethereum price. In fact, it's actually supposed to go the opposite way. Like, Ethereum price should be as low as possible because that makes the user experience for using Ethereum better. Ethereum competes with Solana and AVAX and BSC and Harmony and like all these other layer one chains that do smart contracts better than Ethereum does, because the user experience is better because it's cheaper and it's faster, unless you're, you know, getting restarted on Solana every once in a while. But the idea that I had back then, and even I still do now, outside of bubble logic, which seems to happen every once in a while, is that the cost of the ETH token should stay low enough that it's friendly for users to want to actually use the Ethereum network. And these two things are hard to separate, because for the bubble logic, where the interest rates are kept super low and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the commercial banks are all kind of working together to inflate asset bubbles and pump lots of liquidity and money into the system, it drives people out onto the risk curve. And there was this perfect storm of conditions that were forming in after the 2020 bailout started and the CARES Act and QE and the intervention in the repo markets and everything blew up. Like, you could go buy a Pokemon card, a Charizard card for like 10 or 20K or something like that. And then a year later, it's worth like 100K or something insane. Sneakers, wines, cars. Like, I bought an RV. It was a lifelong dream of mine to have an RV from 10 years ago. I said, I'm going to one day buy an RV, be able to drive across Canada with my family, be able to go back to Nova Scotia, drive in the RV. So we bought the RV, and it was used when I bought it, because the person who bought it knew by the time it got delivered to them 4 or 5 months later, it was worth more. So they sold it used. They had drove it once. They sold it used and made money. And then I have it now for a year, and it's worth more now than I paid for it last year. So like, in this crazy environment, you know, logic is suspended. And really what drove a lot of these things was the narratives. It was the momentum of the ideas behind who's buying this stuff, and the hopium and the Kool-Aid of like, this could be one day have, you know, flip Bitcoin, or this thing's going to merge with the ETH2 and have like infinite scalability. And then we're going to have all quadrillions of dollars of notional value settled on Ethereum. And then Ethereum is going to be worth tens of trillions of dollars. In my opinion, that's the exact same as Elon's going to put Dogecoin on the moon. He's going to switch to adopting, you know, Tesla cars are going to be powered by Dogecoin. You're going to be able to pay to pass another Tesla car with Dogecoin while you're driving it. And one day Dogecoin is going to be worth $10 trillion and it's going to the moon. Honestly, I don't think, like, it's just that one narrative's for stupid people and one narrative's for smart people. Like Dogecoin, Ripple, Doge Elon Mars.
Yeah, you're bringing up the worst
Shiba.
of the worst here, Brad.
I mean, those are the dumb, like, that's the memes for dumb people. Like, you know what I mean? But Solana, Ethereum, Aave, Compound, Yearn, Convex, all these complicated DeFi smart layer contract layer ones and all this stuff, that's the same, like, it's memes for smart people. But in the end, it's all just memes, in my opinion.
I think, I mean, narrative is definitely one of the biggest parts of what's you know, fueling this speculation and you know, different things in bull markets. I think, you know, you said, like, you think Ethereum is really no different from Doge, in that what causes Doge to pump is the same type of stuff that causes Ethereum to pump. I mean, I think, like, Ethereum has so many different things going on with it since 2021, that, like, these different little scarcity engines, whether we're talking about EIP 1559 with the ETH being burnt, whether we're talking about ETH being locked up in the merge, whether we're talking about ETH being locked up in different DeFi protocols, or just being used in general for different things on ETH, like NFTs, I think it's very different from Dogecoin, which is literally just a worse version of Bitcoin.
Well, actually, I think that that's the confusion that a lot of people have in these markets. And we're starting to see that as the bubble is coming to an end and everything's disinflating, from their crazy overvalued prices, then we're seeing that these narratives are falling apart. And Ethereum doesn't have value because it's because the NFTs are on Ethereum, or that DeFi is on Ethereum, because that's competing with Solana and AVAX and all those other things. Ethereum really fundamentally has value because it is another form of digital scarcity like Bitcoin. And just everything competes with Bitcoin on those properties, honestly. When you strip away all the narratives and all the fluff, everything competes with Bitcoin. And it's just that, like, some things have Lindy effect and some things have network effects. Some things have strong developer communities and some things don't. Like Dogecoin, all Dogecoin has is just strong meme, narrative.
It's just a meme
That's
coin.
all it has. What Ethereum has is a strong developer community, NFTs. It has great liquidity. It has deep liquidity like Bitcoin. So like I think there's like 7 or 8 pillars of value that in the long term hold up these things as unique and special and separate assets than anything else in the world. And I think the only thing that has all the right things is Bitcoin. And everything else is just more like tech stocks and narrative driven, cyclical, like price action based on memes and marketing and narrative.
But tech stocks can have value, no? I mean, tech stocks
can.
But you're saying that you don't think any cryptos today are truly valuable. They're just memes.
Oh no, what I'm saying is that like there's a way, they're way overvalued, extremely overvalued. And I'm saying that like in 2020, at the end of 2020, early 2021, I was wrong about thinking that we would recognize that Ethereum was broken and that there was no reason. Because at the time, everybody was making fun of Bitcoin for the high fees, saying Ethereum was going to solve this problem. And I was using Ethereum and DeFi stuff in the summer of 2020 during the food Ponzi craze. And I was like messing around with governance DAOs and like coins and NFTs and stuff in the summer of 2020. I got into like all the DeFi stuff and I really used it all. And I realized it was totally broken. And it was like regular people were never going to want to be able to use that because it was too expensive. And who's going to want to pay like $80 to do a swap or like a trade on Ethereum? I figured like it's only going to be for whales and venture capitalists and the smart contract devs that are building this stuff. And I figured like there's a ceiling of about $1,000 on Ethereum. I was like, if it goes above $1,000, the fees are going to be so crazy that like nobody in their right mind would want to recommend this to anybody. And there's going to be competition coming from, because at the time I knew FTX was backing Solana. It wasn't launched yet, but it was like on the way. And CZ from Binance was working on the Binance chain, which at the time wasn't EVM compatible. But I figured I knew they were working on an EVM compatible version of that, which was Binance Smart Chain. So I figured like, okay, there's a Lindy effect ceiling here for Ethereum because there's only so much narrative and so much momentum that Ethereum can get before all the smart people start to realize that it's broken and they're never going to get mass adoption with a broken blockchain. So they're going to start investing their resources and time and energy into competing with Ethereum. And I was absolutely right about that. In the end, I called it pretty well in that I knew that there was going to be strong competition from all these other layer ones and that you'd probably make more money by speculating on the other layer ones than you would by trying to buy Ethereum. And what I was wrong about was that enough people would still pump Ethereum and that there would be this mass mania for just, you didn't care what the fee was. Like some people were paying $1,000 to mint an NFT. That's crazy. Like that, we're going to look back at this NFT DeFi bubble of 2021 and think like, why, how were we so stupid to like think that you would make money long term or even speculate on JPEGs, and that normal people would spend their paycheck on minting an ape picture or whatever.
Like, that was a good move, doing the ape picture.
Well, if you got the right ape, but
Yeah,
there's a bunch of apes that you could have minted that you lost all your money on.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I agree with you in that we're going to look back and see, obviously, the DeFi summer 2020 and the NFTs of 2021, crazy, speculative, frothy, so much was overvalued or just worthless in general, so many scams. But to me, like, I'm still like, you think of just like the early internet, what can come out of this? We could say the same things about the early internet in the 90s. It's too slow. Who's going to use it? What's the value here? These products are crap. But eventually, like, good products rise to the top.
Well, not only but good products rise to the top, but I think we will recognize that Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, AVAX, BNB, it all competes on the same things. And it doesn't matter what the shills try to sell you and serve up the Kool-Aid and have you drink the narrative of like, oh, well, this is this one is for blockchain, smart contract, Internet of Things, and this one is actually for ZK Sync's smart contract, blockchain of things, blah blah blah. Like that, it doesn't matter. All that stuff doesn't matter. These things actually, the coins themselves, compete with Bitcoin. They all compete with Bitcoin. And I know that all the crypto people like to separate that and say, oh, we love Bitcoin, but this is not like Bitcoin. This is for decentralized finance, or this is for decentralized exchange or trading or whatever the narrative is. But it doesn't matter because you're buying a coin. And so eventually you have to like reconcile, like, what is the value of this coin and what gives it value? And there's been a lot of people that tried to push like utility narrative valuation models like MV equals PQ and fat protocol thesis and things like that, which it's like venture capitalists trying to use their valuations from the early internet days and Web 2 to try to value these new things, these new layer ones and community tokens and blockchain, blockchain like DeFi tokens and governance tokens and all that stuff. And I don't think the network value equals, price quantity, whatever NV equals PQ stands for. I forget, like nobody's talking about that anymore. That was the big 2017 narrative that the Silicon Valley guys are pushing this narrative, but like nobody gives a shit anymore about that because we saw through the 2018-19 bear market that, wait, that doesn't matter. This stuff is actually just like all competing with Bitcoin. And we saw it in the charts. I mean, we saw the price of Ethereum drop 95% in the last bear market. I mean, I don't see why it's not going to do the same thing in this bear market. And Ethereum was never able to meet its previous cycle all-time high from 2017. So I don't see why, in Bitcoin terms. So I don't see why it will achieve this cycle's all-time high next cycle, because I'm sure there's going to be a next cycle. There is going to be opportunity to trade these things. And I don't think that like cryptocurrencies are going to zero. What I think is that they're going to trend to zero in Bitcoin terms. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be opportunity for you to trade altcoins based on these narratives and trends, because at some point the Federal Reserve is going to have to try to step in and pump markets again and inject liquidity. And A16Z is going to be standing by with another $100 billion to pump into GameFi or whatever's the next narrative. And I'm sure Ethereum is going to be the beneficiary of that at some point. But I do think there's risk over the next year of having continued long drawn down negative red days on the altcoins as they bleed and bleed and bleed, as people start to realize it doesn't matter that all these NFTs were done on Ethereum. The Ethereum token itself is a lesser version of Bitcoin. It has worse monetary properties than Bitcoin. So if you understand what Bitcoin is, which people start to do in bear markets, they start to either give up completely on crypto, and then they go back to reviewing games or, whatever they were before they came into this bubble. If you're a life coach on Instagram before you got into NFTs and became an NFT expert, in the next 6 months, you're probably going to be back to being a life coach and digging through yard sales, listening to Gary Vee. Like, I think that's going to happen again. And I don't see why. So it's either like you either go down that path when the bubble bursts, or you do like what Robert Breedlove did, or Corey Clipston from Swan, or Nicholas Berti from Galloy Money, which built Bitcoin Beach Wallet that ended up to the adoption of Bitcoin by El Salvador as a currency, or so many others. There's lots of Bitcoiners that were shitcoin traders in 2017 bubble that rode their bags to zero realized they were being fed this poison Kool-Aid and got a little bit pissed off about it and became Bitcoin maximalists and started digging into Bitcoin stuff. So we're going to have like way more Bitcoiners come out of this cycle as people get wrecked on holding bags to zero. People that like believed Mike Novogratz and Raoul Pal and all these guys about Luna and UST, they're going to be so pissed off that they're going to start, they're just going to either give up on the whole thing, or they're going to like figure out what Bitcoin is and start just buying Bitcoin, and then probably become Bitcoin maximalists because they realized that they were just fed a line of shit from these influencers who were just dumping bags on you.
I agree with you on a lot of things. I think that definitely in bear markets, Bitcoin holds its value, and people will, start to learn what Bitcoin is now that all the, some of the more speculative stuff is gone. I'm sure there will be more Bitcoin maximalists. I'm not sure everybody is going to be Bitcoin maximalists. Don't you think that?
I think most people will just leave.
Yeah.
They'll just get
wrecked.
And
the same thing could be said with Bitcoin too, because the price drop. Some people leave near the bottom, same as.
So that's an interesting point, because I don't think that's the case, since when you buy Bitcoin, you have to pass a bunch of litmus tests. If you come into this space in 2021 and you're buying Bitcoin instead of buying SafeMoon or Ripple or Ethereum, you're actually looking at it. So that you're either one of two types of people. You're just allocating to Bitcoin because you're interested in crypto as a whole. And you're like, oh, well, everybody thinks Bitcoin is the best. It's different. I'm going to get some Bitcoin. And then you go out on the risk curve. Well, in crypto, I like to call it the risk cliff, because like Luna was a risk cliff. Most things are a risk cliff in crypto. So, but you think it's a risk curve. So you're like, oh, I'm going to go deploy into DeFi. I'm going to get some metaverse coins, going to get some DEX coins and DeFi coins and whatever. And so you're either that person where you've got Bitcoin just as well. You don't understand what it is really. You haven't done the work to understand what the Bitcoin is. You're not holding it yourself. You don't have the keys. Maybe you bought like a ledger or something. You're holding the Bitcoin keys, but you're also holding a bunch of other trash on there. Or you're a person who understands Bitcoin. You came into this through the Bitcoin funnel, and you really understand that you're saving in Bitcoin over a 10-year time frame. You understand the problems that we have with money, the risk that's in the system, in the macro system. And I really do believe that the nonsense bubble that we saw in 2021 and continuing to some extent even in this year, it was a litmus test. And I think all the like lower IQ people, like financial IQ, not to say that they're stupid, but like the lower financial IQ people that didn't do the work, they went and bought all the speculative stuff because it was hyped by people they respect. If Mike Novogratz gets a Luna tattoo and you're like a fund manager or a registered investment advisor, you're not an idiot. But like, Raoul Pal from Real Vision is not an idiot. He's a smart macro guy. So he influences tons of smart analysts and people like that do not do the work on Bitcoin. They think, well, Raoul Pal is advocating for UST and Luna and DeFi. And Mike Novogratz is, respected guy. He's got a public company. He's worth billions of dollars, and he's getting a tattoo of this thing. I'm just going to go buy some of that stuff. This must be the future. Everybody's talking about Web3, and Andreessen Horowitz is talking about Web3. I'm just going to go get Web3, and I'm going to analyze it based on these utility narratives. So I think that's like low financial IQ. If you skipped Bitcoin and you didn't take the chance to like do the work and dive into Bitcoin, and you just went straight up into the risk curve and started buying all this stuff based on influential people who are smart in some ways, then I think that's actually more of the market participants this cycle actually went out and did that stuff. So I think because the price of Bitcoin dropped less than the price of the other coins, shows you that there was more people owning Bitcoin that understand what it is that they bought, and they're less likely to panic dump it. So there is definitely an argument to be made that like, yeah, if you bought the top of Bitcoin, then you may want to sell your Bitcoin right now, especially if you're somebody who didn't do the work. But Bitcoiners teach, don't trade it, hold it. Think about it as long-term savings. You're going to endure dips, expect 50% crashes, and keep buying them, because it's solving a problem that nothing else solves right now for your long-term net worth and your long-term wealth and your long-term financial sovereignty. So I think it's just completely different when you actually look at, and some of the listeners listening to this might think, oh, this guy sounds crazy, sounds like he's in a cult. But I mean, there's been a lot of Kool-Aid served up this year to convince people that NFTs are valuable and crypto DeFi is valuable and layer one tokens are valuable. And honestly, I do think we're going to see a continued like long drawn out bear market, and people are going to we're just going to repeat the same cycle. I mean, we repeated the same cycle on the way up, and I was skeptical. I didn't think it was going to get back to insanity of 2017.
I think you called the top January 1st, 2021.
I did call the top, but I also called in July 2020, I said, look, this is going to get crazy. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're going to get real triggered at what's about to happen. Like I kind of saw that Ethereum DeFi and all this stuff was going to start kicking off and we're going to have alt season. I don't like to tell people to trade it. I could be wrong. Like I definitely had bad calls for ETH specifically because I didn't think people would be so dumb. I just didn't think people would realize that this thing's going to go up. And as the price goes up, the usage breaks. Like Ethereum doesn't work for normal people. It's only for whales and rich people.
Dude, going back to 2020 and beginning of 2021, I think like Ethereum was like the easiest call. It was like not necessarily it's going to pump harder than any other crypto, but just like when you looked out like who was coming into crypto, that they were interested in not just Bitcoin, but also Ethereum, what was going on with Ethereum. I think like it was a pretty safe call back end of 2020 to see like Ethereum is going to be valued retrospectively.
Yeah, but I thought I agree with you. I thought for sure it had the momentum on the narrative. Like you had Mike Novogratz and people like that who were actually influencing institutional investors to come in and, buy Bitcoin, but just start with Bitcoin, then go to Ethereum. It was Bitcoin and Ethereum. That was the institutional narrative that all these fund manager guys were shilling, because then they can also grab a bag of Hashgraph and a bag of Solana and a bag of AVAX, and they can also say Bitcoin and Ethereum and my shitcoin that I have a big pre-mine bag of. So it makes sense that the incentives are there for these institutional guys and these influential people to start shilling their bags to these big money funds that are coming in, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, all these guys. They can make tons of money doing that. I thought though that because everybody likes to value this stuff based on the technology, not just the narrative, I thought that once they saw the technology was broken and non-scalable, that they were going to realize the higher the price goes, it was going to be a Lindy effect ceiling, and it was going to actually cannibalize Ethereum's value and Lindy effect, because you're going to have a lot more developers going over to Solana and AVAX. If they had have kept the price at about $500, I don't think you would have seen AVAX and Solana get as successful as they did. But you literally saw blockchain developers who had built dApps on Ethereum, just their dApps broke. Their users couldn't use them anymore. What's the sense? Nobody wants to pay $50 to open up a card pack that you bought for $5 of game currency. So those kind of apps just completely break down when Ethereum's price goes up. So I figured they were going to recognize the strategic blunder of pumping the ETH price, because long term it was going to be bad for the adoption of Ethereum. And I was right, because now you got all these other competing layer ones that are eating Ethereum's lunch when it comes to users. Like PancakeSwap has more users and volume than Uniswap. If BSC has more active users than anything else, and Wax blockchain too.
I feel you, man. I mean, to me, that's indicates, damn, there's something here. There's so much demand. It's going more than just one chain. But this is what I think, dude. I think what you're saying making a lot of sense. I think you're drawing attention to the worst parts of crypto, or the biggest failures, which is fair, because a lot of times people draw attention to the best parts. I think for me personally, somebody who's been in crypto, not as long as you, but multiple cycles, it seems to me, this is where sometimes I'm a, huge Bitcoiner, friendly with a lot of Bitcoin maximalists, but this is where the Bitcoin maximalists lose me on a lot of their arguments, where it seems to me, no matter where we are in the market, they're going to just, basically talk about the worst parts of Ethereum or crypto, no matter if there's, if it's 2020, beginning of 21, they'll just draw attention, stay away, bad, or where we are now, where we're in a bear market. It seems to me that Bitcoiners will be okay, and Bitcoin maximalists will be okay if different Bitcoin influencers in the space, GG, American Hodl, people like that, it's okay, or Max Keiser, it's okay if they're hyperbolic. It's okay if they are just saying kind of outlandish things and just evangelizing Bitcoin. But with crypto, people say it's just, oh, scammer. It seems to me that, I heard the same things in the beginning of 2020. Talk about Preston Pish. The guy has a great podcast, like the guy a lot. They were talking on the podcast in the end of 2020. Do you think, because there was still a question at this time, do you think that people coming in will come into crypto or only Bitcoin? And, they were saying it's going to be only Bitcoin, because if you're not only Bitcoin, and something you just said on this podcast, you failed an IQ test, or you're either too dumb to know, or you are just straight up like deceiving people. And, don't you think that Bitcoiners, Bitcoin maximalists, they had to go through a little bit of a reckoning in 2021, seeing people come into crypto and actually like understand it more than just a surface level? Like in 2017, it was the, Katy Perry painted her nails. That was the thing. In 2021, Canadian, Mr. Wonderful, Mark Cuban, like all these different people just starting their own products, or really like taking the time to use it and understanding it more, and still choosing Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's definitely still like some reconciliation there that needs to happen. I mean, myself personally, I'm still trying to grapple with what happened, because it doesn't make any sense. But, like, why waste time? I think the best thing is, over long time frames, the best thing anybody can do, or the best thing that the average person can do, which is, if you're listening to this, like, don't kid yourself. Like, you're the average person. I'm the average person. Like, we're all, we're the average person. Otherwise, we'd be freaking working for George Soros or something like that, or have our own shitcoin fund that we're dumping Solana bags that we got at 5 cents on everybody at like $50 or whatever it went to. We're all average people. And the best thing that we can do is buy and hold Bitcoin over long time frames and not get distracted. Yes, we're going to try to grapple with what the cycles teach us. And some of us are going to make bad predictions because we assume that we learn lessons and that the market learns lessons. So when Bitcoin maximalists in 2020 are like, we just lived through this crazy bear market where we realized all of this shit went to zero in Bitcoin terms, pretty much. I mean, went down, trending towards zero in Bitcoin terms. And Bitcoin is the thing that led us out of that bear market. And when Bitcoin goes up, it gives permission for other things to go up. I think like we figured that there was so much good information and good analysis and research from everything else. High net worth individuals, retail people, average normal people understand that, like, wait, I got to get Bitcoin. This thing solves a problem for me. It's money. It's the biggest use case in the world. And I don't think we saw Elon Musk coming in and shilling Dogecoin. Like, that really probably was one of the bigger things that kicked off all this insanity, was like the richest person in the world coming in and shilling Doge. Absolutely ridiculous joke. That
and
gave
buying
permission.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, buying Bitcoin, but like still shilling Dogecoin. I mean, it's just so stupid. It is literally, it's like the dumbest thing that he could have done. And it sets back so much work that Bitcoiners have done, because now you don't have to convince, but you have to contend with all these dummies that got rich off of Elon Musk tweets, thinking that there's something there when it was really just nonsense. Like, Dogecoin's not going to be the future currency of the world. It's not going to be the currency of the moon, the currency of Mars. He's kidding around. Maybe he's going to try, but he's going to fail just because he's very wealthy and he's a smart guy in other areas. It doesn't mean that he's...
Elon Musk kids around a lot. I mean, as you know, his Twitter is just full of trolling. He's just constantly saying outrageous stuff. I mean, I think it's like, it's like new people are going to be like, oh, maybe there's something there with Dogecoin. But then, it's not that hard to convince them. It's like, look where Elon put his money.
Dude, it's so hard. I mean, I've had so many conversations. I spent the last year and a half on Clubhouse, and I'm on there like every day, like a few hours at least a day. And I've had so many conversations with people that at the beginning, I'd say they're probably like, a lot of those people are actually dumb people. I mean, like, there's a lot of dumb people in the world. If you think about it, like, the average intelligence is a average for a reason. Like, that means like there's a lot of below average intelligence people.
50%.
There's a lot of below average. There's a lot of dumb people in the world, right? And they're much more susceptible to getting sucked into cultish or just like hopium, like memes and narratives like Hex or Ripple, or, you know, the Federal Reserve is going to adopt Ripple. It's going to adopt the ISO 2 standard, and Ripple's the only thing that can do the ISO 2 standard, and all the banks are using Ripple. It's no difference than stake your Hex. It's a blockchain CD that you're going to get 12,000% on, which is no different than Elon Musk is actually going to use Dogecoin. He's going to use it as the currency for Teslas, which is really not that much different than all the futures trading in the world, like Wall Street and all the global macro markets are going to use Ethereum and one of its layers to settle all the notional value of derivatives and futures in the world. Therefore, Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin. I mean, you got to actually do the work and understand what Bitcoin is. And yeah, I do think that the Bitcoiners have a lot of validity in the statement to say that people that come in and start just right away going and buying all this other stuff, they haven't done the work and they really don't understand what Bitcoin is.
I think it's possible to do the work, understand what Bitcoin is, yet still be interested in cryptocurrency from an investment level and also just could this have value in the future level. I think it's possible to understand, save in Bitcoin, and still be interested and see that there could be potential in this other stuff.
What percentage do you think of the people that came in 2021 actually did the work on Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, new retail people, obviously it's going to be less. I think a lot of the smarter people who came in, who were higher up, notable person in traditional finance or, you know, what have you. I mean, I think they did the work. I think they understand it. I mean, a lot of them engaged in conversations with Bitcoin Maximalists, Mark Cuban, Mr. Wonderful.
Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary are idiots when it comes to Bitcoin, man. Like, you listen to what they say about Bitcoin. Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary were actually part of the 2017 bubble. They just weren't extremely vocal about it. Mark Cuban did the Unicoin ICO, Unicoin Gold ICO, that was like,
and he admits
sued by the SEC.
And Mr. Wonderful used to be the biggest, antagonist of crypto, and yet he changed his mind.
He actually wasn't. Like, that was a shtick. He was in Bitcoin in 2013. Not many people know this, but he came into Bitcoin in 2013, and his statement was buying Bitcoin is like a revolt against the central bankers.
He did say that, you're right. He was seemingly pro Bitcoin very early. In the beginning of 2018, he went on TV with Pompliano and said, I just bought a basket of these. They're shit. Crypto is shit. And then in 2021, he changed his mind saying DeFi has
playing
potential.
A game. Because I've watched a lot of Kevin O'Leary's comments on Bitcoin through the years. And in 2017, he was actually he was on that episode with Pomp. He was just playing around. He was just kind of playing devil's advocate, but he was active in blockchain, real estate, security tokens, and Bitcoin. So back in 2017, he was participating in the bubble. He was skeptical, like he was playing it up on TV that he was skeptical, just like he does now when he does that ESG stuff. Like he's basically like, oh, but this is dangerous for the environment. It's not good for the environment. We got to make a green coin. I mean, it just shows that he doesn't really get Bitcoin. He just gets that he can make money with this stuff. There's a difference between making money with the stuff and understanding what Bitcoin is. And Mark Cuban still doesn't understand what Bitcoin is.
I mean, on the spaces he did with Preston Pish and you guys, he was able to articulate every Bitcoin maximalist argument and still say that he has a different opinion.
No, I don't think he was, because in the end, he said, like, when we were talking to him about decentralization, he was like, Vitalik will figure it out. I trust Vitalik.
It's less decentralized than Bitcoin, but it's more decentralized than anything else. Anyway, let's pivot the conversation here. I mean, I guess, first of all, you mentioned...
I mean, dude, it's worth noting, though, that Mark Cuban is unethical. Like, I mean, what he did with KlimaDAO was unethical. Like, he bought 3 to 5 seats in the pre-sale of KlimaDAO, which was a fork of an Ohm Ponzi scheme. And then he promoted it on his Twitter account to all these people and used a smokescreen of a green carbon credit coin on Polygon as the reason why he was shilling a Ponzi scheme. That's unethical behavior. And we shouldn't be like, I mean, that's why Bitcoiners are so like morally impugnant about all this stuff, because like he's shilling Ponzi schemes to retail people, telling them that it's good for the environment. It's ridiculous.
Then it must, I mean, that's why I say, I mean, nobody's perfect. I agree based on what you said. That does not sound good. But so I'm going to say that
something about Elon.
No. It's just that, well, I mean, compared to 2018 and 2019, like here's the thing, back in Bitcoin's first 10 years, the projects were shit. They had little to no usership.
Yeah.
Don't you think crypto has grown by orders of magnitude over the last few years? If you would have said where crypto was in 2021, like if you would have said, oh, it's going to be that something like that in 2019, you would have been called, a scammer and, all this stuff.
I mean, dude, we're still being called scammers right now. Like there's still so many people that call us Ponzi schemes and criminals and stuff for Bitcoin. I mean, there's a lot
but
of
I'm talking about the Bitcoin maximalists calling the crypto people. If you would have suggested that all these things are going to happen in 2021, you would have been called a scammer.
You would have been, yeah, you would have been looked at as like you're crazy. Because I remember in 2021, before the Dogecoin pumps, before Ethereum pumped, like there was a period where Bitcoin was ripping and all the DeFi coins were getting wrecked and Ethereum was just sitting there still. And everything was like, some things were pumping, but it was like, it wasn't the crazy run that we had in 2021. But I remember like being in rooms with all these dummies that were like, they went from being like QAnon to being like Dogecoin or Ripple maximalists. Like they're very like susceptible to just believe whatever they're told. They were telling me that like Dogecoin is going to 50 cents. And I'm like, you are an idiot. Like there's no way that that's going to happen. Like Dogecoin at 50 cents, delete your account. You're so stupid. But like, they were right. It went to 50 cents, didn't it? So
it did.
There is it's almost like the worst thing.
But I'm not even talking about price. I'm not even talking about price. I'm just talking about,
I'll give you something here. It's the worst thing that could have happened, and it's almost the best thing that could have happened, because it definitely did make some of us look at it and be like, we were wrong. Okay, like clearly people have this outlet that they want, whether it's just gambling or whatever the outlet is. Like there's something there in crypto that people want, and people are falling for stuff maybe, but like we were totally wrong about what we thought was going to happen this cycle. We thought Bitcoin was going to 100K and nothing else was going to pump, and ETH wouldn't even be a thing. And like Dogecoin, of course, like why would we think Elon Musk was going to come in and shill that? And all these YouTube celebrities and stuff would start shilling each of, like Safe Moon and all these all the coins that they have bags of.
And for the record, I'm sure we don't do that. We don't shill Doge or Safe Moon or these meme coins, or even Ripple.
Well, so I'm talking about like gamers, like FaZe Clan and like Keemstar and all these like super influential YouTube celebrities that have like YouTube shows, Mr. Beast, stuff like that. Mr. Beast, I don't think shilled anything, but Jake Paul, all these guys, they started shilling all this garbage, Save the Kids token and Safe Moon and all this stuff. It's just total garbage. But they did it because it was like, all gates are off. The regulators are just standing by, not doing anything. The richest man in the world is coming in and pumping Dogecoin. I'm going to get me some. I'm going to launch an NFT and grift and like take my community's money and then just like dump the project and sell my bags and go on with my life. Like I'm not going to have any consequences.
I mean, yes, there's a whole spectrum of people who straight up scamming and grifting and money grabbing, and then people who actually thought there's, fundamental value or just something more, and we're trying to figure it out. There's a whole spectrum, just like a spectrum of crypto projects. There's straight up scams and straight up projects trying to do well but might fail. I did remember my question though. I did remember what I was going to say, because you talked about how Mark Cuban, a lot of people don't know, the guy's highly immoral. The guy, pumped and dumped scams. Wasn't it? And I talked about like the reckoning that Bitcoiners had to go through in 2021. Isn't it? Right. Doesn't it suck that seemingly, back in the Bitcoin's first 10 years, Bitcoiners used to imagine, man, what happens when some of my favorite people like realize the value of Bitcoin, which has been happening in 2021. Yes. But doesn't it suck that now you have to basically, the Shark Tank, they're scammers, Disney, they're scamming people, Mr. Beast, Eminem, Jay-Z, Shaq, all of these people, I assume that. Yeah,
it sucks. It does suck. I mean, I've lost a lot of respect this cycle for people, and I know that's not where you were going, but like, I actually have I have lost a lot of respect for people I used to look up to. I used to look up to Tim Ferriss quite a lot. I listened to his podcast. I read all of his books. I learned to cook because of 4 Hour Body. I did the slow carb diet. I was like, he's an influential guy to me as a young entrepreneur coming up and trying to like learn how to think properly. I went through stoicism because of him. And then to see him start shilling all this trash at the top of a generational bubble of total garbage nonsense, I just got to think like, what else is he like? How can you reconcile all this stuff about stoicism and doing the right things and being ethical and thinking of like, whatever.
But he wasn't making price predictions, right? He was talking about it like, what could it do? Just like what could the internet do in the 90s? He was talking about what could crypto do.
Like what he was doing was, I mean, he tweeted like a couple times, like 3 and all this stuff, which is just a dog whistle for the Ohm Ponzi scam. And that, people that know 3 know what he's saying. So he's endorsing Ohm, the idea of you can get 70,000% APY, and that makes sense, and that's okay. And he's bringing people on the podcast, and like Kevin Rose, he's great friends with Kevin Rose. I mean, Kevin Rose just went full degen, total off the deep end with his degen stuff.
He's invested in Coinbase and a bunch of stuff, I think.
I mean, all these guys, in my opinion, like we have an opportunity here to help billions of people in the world escape financial oppression. We have an opportunity to like our money is dying everywhere. We know that this is not going to be solved. This problem of fiat money being the money supply being inflated constantly and the market being interfered with by these central bankers and these economists that want to control everything and censor everything. Well, what's the solution to that? Is it Ohm Ponzi scam? Or is it NFTs, buying freaking JPEGs? Or is it actually learning about sound money and saving in Bitcoin?
Well, those aren't the solution to sound money. I agree with you, but those could be a solution to something else.
Yeah, I know. But the biggest problem that we have right now is educating people about what Bitcoin is. And when you muddy that conversation with like, but Elon Musk likes Dogecoin because it's faster and he thinks you can just raise the block size to a gigabyte because technology is going to get us there. That's literally the stuff he's like tweeting about with Dogecoin. It just confuses the whole conversation. And then the same thing with DeFi, the Web3 narrative. That's like a top-down force-fed narrative from the Silicon Valley vulture capitalists that basically strip mined Web 2.0.
I don't think that stuff confuses the conversation. Like I can see what you're saying with Dogecoin or Litecoin or Bcash. That confuses the conversation. It makes you not really understand Bitcoin. But I think that other stuff, which isn't trying to be money for the world, I don't necessarily think it muddies the waters. In fact, I think it brings people into crypto. Doge brings people into crypto every cycle, for better or worse. I mean, I don't promote it.
I will give you for sure that there is an argument to be made that if you cast a big enough net, you'll catch some fish. And sure, like maybe if you leave that net underwater for 2 days, 70% of the fish are going to drown and die. And then you pull the net up and you got some fish in the net. That's what crypto 2021 was. Like basically it was like tens of millions of people in that net just drowning in Luna coin and all this other garbage DeFi coins.
Tons of people made tons of money in 2021 as well.
So I would love to know actually what percentage. I know we can't really quantify it, but I'm pretty sure that, I get hit with this argument quite a bit that like, oh, well, Maxis were wrong. ETH outperformed Bitcoin. And I'm like, that is such a like disingenuous way to look at the conversation, because if somebody was buying ETH, it was because they were watching crypto shows or they were like being shilled ETH by some crypto person who also tells you to go stake your ETH and go buy DeFi coins and go buy NFTs. Like there's nobody that's like Bitcoiners are out there saying, learn about Bitcoin, save in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is censorship resistant, government resistant money. You have financial sovereignty. Don't trade it. With ETH, it's like Bitcoin's a boring rock. We've got new technology over here. Look what you can do with your ETH. You can stake it. You can buy NFTs. You can buy DeFi coins. You can get a piece of Web3 and buy land in the metaverse. All those people doing all that stuff, not all, but like I've got to say a significant majority of people who were out doing all that stuff held their bags even till this point. Sure, some people turned into great traders, but they're the outlier. Like the significant majority of the friends that I have who are insiders. Like I got a lot of insider friends.
And they're involved in crypto.
These projects.
Yeah.
No, I mean like insiders in crypto, people that launch these projects. I got like multiple like insider alpha VIP chats, whatever you want to call them.
So I'm surprised you were so bearish on Ethereum, which you already went over, but yeah.
Well, they all call me the Peter Schiff of DeFi because I'm so bearish in the chats. I'm like, dude, you guys are crazy. Like this shit's not going above 1,000. But like, I know all what they've been doing. I know these guys, like these guys are the top, like these are the people that are in the pre-mine dumping on you. Like these are the people that have the pre-mine. They're the people that were dumping the Ohm Ponzi coin on you, like at the top while they were signaling 3 for you to hold. I'm friends with these people because they're from the early days of Bitcoin. Like all these people, the significant majority of people in 2021, 2022, they made their money by being in the pre-mine. and by dumping at the top or near the top, or even now at the way down. And even like the traders among them who consider themselves traders, some of them have YouTube shows, some of them have like huge Twitter followings. I saw them get wrecked during this market. They were all in DeFi coins for these narratives. They were all thinking, you're stupid, you're a maxi, Web3 is the future, decentralized finance is going to be, you know, replacing blah, blah, blah. So they were all in these blue chips, quote unquote, blue chip DeFi coins in 2021, while, you know, Bitcoin had ripped. I had already gotten to my all-time high, my previous cycle all-time high. These guys are sitting there like watching Bitcoin rip, being like, shit, like, when's it our turn? Like, these maxis are getting wealthy, that sucks. Or just like, why are my bags not pumping? Like, why is Aave not moving? Why is Uniswap not moving? Why is Curve still wrecked? Like, this shit's the future. Why isn't this moving? ETH is going to be like the story there. They turned into ETH Maximalists. And then what happened in 2021 was they saw the meme coins outperform them. So Bitcoin settled off. The DeFi shit did nothing. It was just like going down, and the meme coins outperformed them. So they all realized, wait, it does not make sense to be an ETH maxi. They were against Bitcoin maxis, most of them, because they don't like the way that Bitcoiners talk, or the, like what you're talking about. Most of us focus on the negative. But what they ended up doing was like just saying, screw this. I'm just gonna like make as much money as I possibly can. I'm just gonna go deploy into Solana and AVAX and whatever ecosystem rotation there is. I'm just gonna buy all the bags up. I'm gonna launch some shit. I got multiple friends who just like launch their own coins, their own protocols. You just fork something from ETH or something and throw it on AVAX, make $10 million. Like, that's, and so those people that were making tens of millions of dollars this cycle, dumping their pre-mine bags on most of the people who are watching the show, and most people listening to any other show, like anybody that wants to like learn about these protocols, they're being dumped on by these guys. These guys didn't make any money trading. Like, they didn't make any money buying and holding in the opportunity, like the retail cycle, where you can get it when it's, you know, most of them made their money by getting in early as an insider and dumping their bags. And there was a couple of them, to be fair, a couple of my friends actually, you know, did extremely well trading the cycle and made millions of dollars, actually trading the cycle using technical analysis, identifying trends. So there is opportunity for sure. If you're that like 1% that can beat the market, but dude, I got some friends of mine who are like influential crypto traders, and they do all this technical analysis shit all the time. And they're presenting themselves as if they're like technical analysis people and traders. They got wrecked holding this stuff. And where they made their money was taking the money from people and launching their own shit.
Right.
I mean, they launched their own stuff, and that's where they made their money. So that's the unfortunate truth with most of this stuff, that like really the most money is in not trading it and buying and holding, but like being an early insider.
All right.
And even that doesn't work long time.
First of all, you're definitely making sense. What you're saying is true, especially how you framed it. Very true. I think you started off by saying, I think that people mischaracterize us as Bitcoin maximalists. And I think in a way, the mischaracterization goes both ways, because, you know, you're drawing attention to the worst parts. I mean, obviously people make more in pre-mines. Obviously there's the fake traders out there. Obviously everything you said is true, but like,
but wait, it's not even the fake traders. I'm talking about the real traders.
And even the real traders losing money in the market. But this is what I wanted to say. Like you talked about, yeah, you know, everybody was promoting DeFi, and in 2021, the blue chips all sank. But like, to my point, where you lose me, who's, you know, listened to all the conversations for, almost 2 cycles now, like after DeFi summer, the same conversations were going on with Bitcoin maximalists. DeFi is shit. There's nothing, you know, good here. And like, for me, just as a layman, just like looking at the Dune Analytics stuff and seeing that the total value locked and all these metrics were really like booming in DeFi right after DeFi summer before 2021, thinking that, damn, I don't think DeFi is over. Like, I think, you know, and like really DeFi really pumped. It was the very beginning, maybe like January 2021 was the ultimate top. And then when everybody was coming in 2021, it sank. But like between DeFi summer, when Bitcoin maximalists were going, there's nothing here, when they were, you know, evangelizing Chamath Palihapitiya for going, whoop, I own Bitcoin on Laura Shin's podcast. There was actual stuff going on. And if you just looked into it rather than fudding it, you could have saw that there's opportunity there. And then also, you know, you brought up Aave, right? Like, Aave was actually an ICO from 2017. It used to be called ETHLend. Obviously, that's a shining example. Most failed. But like, at what point did these insiders dump their Aave bags? A lot of people would have said, oh, they dumped it on your heads in 2018 when it was like $1 or less. And it really rallied up to, $500, $400 in 2021. So, I mean, you're talking about it from the top of the market, how they're dumping on you. But like Aave's been around multiple cycles now. It's way higher than it was in 2018. It did, get crushed 90%. It's just like, I feel like there's another side to the coin.
For sure. So I should be a little bit more generous. I will say that I've spent a lot of time in DeFi and in crypto circles. And that's like, when I'm critical of the majority of what's happening. The majority of what's happening, this TVL stuff, like all the money that's getting locked into DeFi, it's not really locked. It's just temporarily deposited until they remove it, or there's an exploit or a rug pull or something like that. Or maybe the other scenario,
it's locked until they remove it or until something executes.
Yeah, like it's deposited. It's value deposited. But that is by mostly crypto funds, high net worth individuals, and not by regular people. So when you look at the Bitcoin metrics, you're seeing like user growth, adoption of Bitcoin as money. And that's why it does seem like it's like a VC thing versus a real user driven, natural, altruistic thing like Bitcoin and Lightning Network. And that is actually, you're not incentivized to do that. Nobody's paying you to do that. There's no honeypots there for you to go deposit your money like there was on Anchor or something like that to attract billions of dollars of capital of fair weather friends who are just there for yield or just there for the trend or whatever it is. Now, DeFi, for sure, like people are using TVL and metrics like
just usership. Yeah, there's a lot of different metrics that go over on doing analytics.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, but I think, like I said, I think all that stuff is just useless. It does, like, that's only valuable to look at that stuff in a bull market where you can see, okay, well, Badger's now getting tons more TVL, so I might want to rotate into Badger coin because the narrative is that Badger coin is going to go up because it's getting more TVL and getting more users. So I'm going to buy Badger. Like that, it doesn't actually mean like that the Badger token is related to the TVL or anything like that. Something like Curve, you can actually have a PE ratio, like a form of a PE ratio where you can see, okay, this protocol generates fees. If I hold it, I get, half the fees are given to the stakers into the gauge pool or whatever, then half the fees are given to me. So I can give this thing some sort of PE ratio. And that, so something like Curve where they've developed this, even though that there's centralized, emergency keys in Curve where they can just kind of at a will just remove somebody from a gauge or whatever. And I think they did it with USDN or one of those coins where the guy like accumulated too much convex or something and voted his own stablecoin into the Curve gauge, and then they used admin keys, like emergency keys, to kick that thing off the rewards network, and like it got wrecked. Like they depegged that coin, but the dude was a scammer, so nobody really cared. But that just shows that like this isn't decentralized. It's somewhat decentralized. It's built on a blockchain.
I agree with you.
It's not decentralized. So how do you value it? If it's not like Bitcoin as if it's not decentralized, then you got to value it on something else.
Like a tech stock.
Yeah, like a tech stock. So Curve, you can actually give some kind of valuation to. You can look at it and see it's generating X amount of dollars. The fees are shared back to the token holders in this automated way. So if it's like 5 or 10x PE ratio, then that's probably a decent buy. But it was like 100x PE ratio a couple months ago when I looked at it. So that's why I say it's extremely overvalued, because yeah, there's some opportunity. I'm not saying that it's all scams and that it's all, it's all going to zero completely. I'm just saying that like it's way overvalued even still. And there is opportunity if you're a really good, like if you're treating this like a job and you're doing proper risk management and you're setting stop losses or you're doing actual research instead of just like watching BitBoy videos or something like that, like actually doing like, okay, what is actually the way to value this thing? And then you look at it and you recognize the macro conditions and the trend. And then you can say like, yeah, maybe this is worth buying here. But I don't know. Do you have any idea? Like, is there anything here at this point that isn't overvalued in your opinion? Like, as I look at things, I think a lot of this stuff's still way overvalued, even down 90%.
I totally, I mean, things have gone down a lot. I think probably some things are close to their bottom, but they could fall another, 50%, 60%. Tis the nature of crypto. I think
Dripto?
Tis the nature of crypto.
I thought you said dripto. Crypto that only drops. We'll call it dripto.
But I mean, so things are like overvalued now due to the state of the market, but I think some things are probably undervalued longer term. Many things are not. And, like I already mentioned, I remember being on that Tone Vase podcast with you at the very end of 2020, where you said, the same thing about Ethereum at like $700. I think it's highly overvalued. I was happy to sell my Ethereum, which, obviously now is a better time to sell your Ethereum than back then, retrospectively speaking. This is my question to you, Brad. This is my question to you. This is like an exercise, so go with me on this. Somebody just a few days ago, a well-known influencer, a well-known person, not just on YouTube, but in traditional space, said that Ethereum is definitely going to 10K this year. Do you think, you probably think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would say, and I'm setting up the next question, that person's either scamming people or dumb?
No. I would say that there's a difference between like long-term financial intelligence and short-term intelligence for trading. If you're a short-term trader, if you're a trader and that's your job, you can be the best at the world at trading and be extremely intelligent and recognize some trends that I'm.
This is not a trader. This is an evangelist of sorts who believes in the technology, who believes in the future adoption.
So if you're not a trader and you're saying that, I got to think you haven't done the work in that you're low IQ, financial IQ.
Low financial IQ. And would you think that this person is?
I don't think they would be scamming.
Right. It's just they're not being ethical.
I just think they haven't done the work on Bitcoin. They don't understand what Bitcoin is.
Well, because saying from Ethereum right now at 2,000 or whatever, and seemingly going down, saying it's going to hit 10,000 or 15,000 this year, irresponsible.
Without acknowledging the risks of what's happening in the markets and without acknowledging the risks of like, hey, you can be aware that Ethereum could go to $10,000 based on if the Federal Reserve starts printing. If they just say Ethereum's going to 10K for sure this year with no context, I'd say like, yeah, that's not helpful because you're not giving people context. Even the same way that if somebody said the same thing about Bitcoin, like Bitcoin's going to 200K this year without giving context of like, don't go all in and like DCA your way no matter what the price is, like expect a drop, expect volatility. I would not recommend somebody be saying that about Bitcoin either without context.
That's fair, because that leads me to my next question. If a well-respected Bitcoiner in the traditional financial space said that Bitcoin is definitely going to $220 this year, should they be ostracized from the community?
I wouldn't retweet that. That's
all right.
Sure.
Well, a lot of people retweet Max Keiser all the time, and I certainly don't have a problem with him personally. I like the guy, but this is an example of Bitcoiners, retweeting these hyperbolic things from the evangelists in the space, and then like calling the things in the crypto space, fudge or like scammers or just dumb.
But the other thing is too, dude, I have to defend Max Keiser almost as much as I have to defend Tether from Bitcoiners. Like Bitcoiners are not like Bitcoiners don't all like Max Keiser. So he's like, look, a lot of Bitcoiners look at him as like hyperbolic and hurting adoption because he says crazy things. But I mean, I have a soft spot for Max because he's doing a lot behind the scenes. And I think he's a smart guy, and this is his character and whatever. So
the ends justify the means.
If you like listen to Max have a conversation, you'll get more context, right? The same as like, if you I'm trying to be nice and I can't figure out who's an ETH maxi that's yelling.
Anthony Sassano is a huge or the Bankless guys.
Yeah, but even if you listen to those guys, they're kind of cringe. So you can't really.
I mean, like the Bankless guys, I like them as podcast hosts. Anthony Sassano is pretty technical. He has the Daily Way on YouTube, and he like talks about what's actually going on, not just what he wants to happen.
See, it's funny because these guys all have me blocked because they all made all these predictions last.
Dude, I'm
cycle
surprised
about how-
Raoul. I'm surprised Raoul doesn't have you blocked.
Oh, he blocked me a year ago.
Oh, okay. Then I thought you've always said like, oh, I could go back on Real Vision. But
I could.
Why would he have you back on Real Vision? You've been calling him a scammer for the past month.
Dude, he blocked me like a year ago and then invited me back on it. You know, like Real Vision's a big team. They allowed me to sneak back on, I guess, without telling Raoul.
Right. But
listen, let me say too that like
sure.
Interacting with crypto circles for a while, and you know, I do think that it's not that everyone's a scammer, everyone's unethical in crypto. I think that there's a lot of genuine people that have come into the crypto funnel in 2021, and even some from before that, who are, you know, cypherpunks. There's some real cypherpunks in Ethereum and other blockchains. There's a lot of young people that came in that maybe they're not as like activist minded as Bitcoiners are about this issue of solving this problem with money for the billions of people in the world that need Bitcoin. And they're more into like the hustle culture or entrepreneurship, or like, you know, they're influenced by someone like Tim Ferriss, like I was as a young guy. So they see Tim Ferriss doing NFTs and DeFi schemes or whatever, and they're just like, I'm going to build a DApp. And, you know, governance and DAOs and all this stuff that's exciting to the younger people that are coming in this cycle. I don't think they're all scammers and unethical and stuff. Like I've talked to a bunch of young guys and be like, hey, like, why are you building this DApp? Why are you building this DAO? And a lot of them are just curious. They're just trying it out. They're like, oh, Web3 is the future. And, you know, like I've got friends, I've invested in some Web3 companies from the past cycle. Like they came, like Marguerite de Courcelles from Blockade Games. She was originally like a Bitcoin artist. She was Coin Artist is her name. She was making Bitcoin art back in the day.
Oh, she used to be Bitcoin only?
Well, back before when it was like when there was only Bitcoin, really. There was like Litecoin and Decred and all these other things too. And she dabbled with stuff, but a lot of Bitcoiners dabbled with altcoins in the past. But then when the 2017 turned on Bitcoin and like the big block side attacked Bitcoiners and Bitcoin, and Coinbase got behind the attack and all these other big companies got behind the attack, it hardened a lot of people like myself and Max Keiser and other Bitcoiners who were like Max Keiser had Max Coin back in the day. People always in Bitcoin, people always shit on Max Keiser for having Max Coin back in the day. And like
Startcoin or something, there's like two.
Startcoin, yeah. But like there was a bunch of Bitcoiners that were curious and testing out all that stuff. And some of us still do like invest in alts because we're trend following. We want to get more Bitcoin. It's kind of more nuanced than that. It's not that like we think that anybody touching a shitcoin is a scammer or anything like that. It's just more like world when it's confusing people about what Bitcoin is and distracting them from understanding Bitcoin. Ethereum, really, in the end, they're fighting against Bitcoin. Like the Ethereum Foundation teamed up with the WEF and the Ripple guys and CoinDesk and like these.
How'd they team up with the Ripple guys? Ripple guys constantly FUD Ethereum.
They all joined this thing to FUD proof of work. Like they're all trying to push proof of stake, and they're all FUDding proof of work. This really is a battle for the future of Bitcoin.
That's good. And fight for proof of work. I agree with you.
But like the Ethereum folks are part of that attack. A lot of people in Ethereum are like attacking Bitcoin, and this is the next big battle in cryptocurrency. It was the block size wars. The last was the real big one. This one that we're currently in right now, it's a war between proof of work and proof of stake and crypto and Bitcoin. A lot of people don't see it yet, but this is why a lot of us Bitcoin maximalists are kind of toxic sometimes, because we recognize that this is a battle for Bitcoin. Everything competes with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
When you get down to it.
I agree with you. Proof of work versus proof of stake. That is a battle Bitcoiners will have to do. And these proof of stake chains do FUD proof of work a lot. And that is a problem. I think you can still be bullish on Ethereum or what have you and Bitcoin separately and realize, I mean, Bitcoiners fought Ethereum to no end. So it's like, I think you can like, just like take them both as they are and understand them both. But I did want to finish up today's interview. We usually don't go this long, Brad, but you're such a great guest. I really enjoy the Bitcoin maximalism conversation. One of my final questions is, knowing that,
and I don't stop.
Oh, sorry, you cut out there for a sec.
Oh, I said I don't stop talking.
Oh no, dude, I love it, dude. You got something to say. This is what we like. Yeah. So one of my final questions, I've got about a few more, is that, do you think, here's the thing. I think if I would have asked this question in 2018, 2019, 2020 to Bitcoiners, Bitcoin maximalists, they wouldn't have said this. But maybe now they have to come to a certain reckoning. So my question is, do you think Ethereum and crypto will continue to grow and gain usership within the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that depending on the market conditions, I mean, like we are really on the press. And if we do get down into the weeds with like economic World War III continuing, like we've seen, where China's stopping exporting fertilizer and microchips, and Ukraine and Russia are in a war, and that war maybe spreads, and like, the wheat harvest is going to cause starvation all over the world. I mean, like gas prices are going to keep going up. Europe just said they were going to sanction Russia, which is basically like shooting themselves in the head, because they rely on Russia for between 30 to 70% of their natural gas and coal. So that's going to cause a run up in the price of oil. As inflation continues in the West and gets crazier overseas, I mean, you see Sri Lankans right now are like revolting and like burning down the houses of politicians and like killing politicians and shit because they ran out of fuel and they're running out of food. Chinese people are like starving to death in Shenzhen. There's a lot of serious shit going on in the world, and the macro markets are still overvalued. Like the S&P 500 came down a lot. A lot of tech stocks came off their highs by quite a bit. They look like shitcoin charts, Peloton and Netflix and stuff like that. But most average people haven't felt that yet, because we've seen a bit of high inflation. People are starting to feel the rising food and fuel costs, but we haven't really experienced what Nigerians and Lebanese people and people like that have experienced. So we still have monetary privilege here. If we actually get to a point where there's a sovereign debt crisis and the global bond market really rolls over and there's actually like no bid for new treasuries. I mean, look, the US debt is $30 trillion right now. There's $9 trillion of maturing debt in the next 24 months. Like that's insane. It's basically Ponzi-nomics. It's like almost like a DeFi Ponzi coin. Like the Federal Reserve has to buy treasuries currently to sustain the demand for the Congress voting to have all these deficits. So like if you have another $10 trillion of treasuries that need to get issued when there's problems globally with money and economic war is happening and like people are starving. I don't think we're going to see starving people in the US and Canada, but like you are already seeing like baby formula shortages in the US. There's a lot of shit happening in the world, man. And the housing market hasn't even come off yet. Like in Toronto, the housing bubble is so crazy in Toronto. It's one of the worst in the world. Even in my small area, I live 2.5 hours from Toronto, and my house cost me $270,000 to build in 2010. So, and at that time it was $270,000. I thought like I was getting ripped off. I'm like, this bubble is crazy. Just like I thought with Ethereum. I was like, this freaking thing is too expensive. It's overvalued. I should be paying like 230 for this thing. Maybe I'm getting ripped off 10 to 20%. The housing market has to come down. Well, it turns out when you pump trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into the system and you suppress interest rates and keep them low, and you create tons of credit through the commercial banking system, and big money gets to access more money that's getting created through loans, they're going to deploy that money and it's going to cause inflation of asset bubbles. So I didn't recognize that before, but now I do kind of recognize that. Like I was talking about this in January when everybody was saying, oh, it's new alt season's going to happen and Bitcoin's to 100K, ETH to 10K. I was tweeting like, pucker up, guys. Like this shit's about to hit the fan. Like this is not going to be pretty over the next 6 months, because
I was throughout all of 2021 as well.
Well, not quite to that extent. About like all through 2021, I was actually identifying like, okay, we're going to have a .com 2.0 bubble, because look at all the money getting poured into this stuff. Through 2021, I've had like pretty good calls at the bottoms of like when we had the dumps off the China mining ban and things like that. I was also watching like Andreessen Horowitz raised $200 billion and EOS is doing a $9 billion SPAC, and like all this other, like, you know, all these celebrities getting in and chilling all this stuff. I'm like, this is going to blow up. We're not done yet. We're going to go back up. It's going to be crazy. Everybody get ready for that. But I was also at the same time saying, but the shit is about to hit the fan in the macro market. So when that does, get ready for 20K Bitcoin and destruction, 90% wrecked in all altcoins, because when the shit hits the fan in the macro market, nothing is going to be saved. And I was kind of like, I misplayed the Ethereum price call. I did call the altcoins and the NFTs and all. I was tweeting about the NFT bubble before most people even. I was buying CryptoPunks in 2020, like for 3 ETH. Because I was
really?
like, I mean, I saw people who are stupid. They're going to start freaking valuing JPEGs. So I was like, I can identify when shit's about to go and deploy a little bit of capital while also being critical of it, because I know it's nonsense. In the end, it's going to get people wrecked. So I think like that question about where we're going with growth, all the things I just said about the macro conditions, if that doesn't get solved, like if it continues on the trend we're on right now, we're going to see sovereign debt crisis. We're going to see the NASDAQ and S&P 500 continue to fall. We're going to see the housing market crash 50%, maybe. Like some people say I'm crazy for saying that high, but some people are saying 20, 30%. My house where I live right now, like it went from $270,000 to $950,000. It's almost like, what's that, a 3x or something in 10 years. And it was a 2x in the last 3 years. That's just craziness. Like there's no way that's sustainable. So like in the world where we get into a recession or we get into stagflation, or at worst, we get into a global depression, or on the other side, we get into a hyperinflationary collapse because they can't stop, you know, printing, and they start doing UBI and debt forgiveness and all this stuff. Something's going to happen. This is not just going to be like the last 10 years. It's just craziness the way where we are right now. And in that world, I think that we're going to see less and less people wanting to give a crap about DeFi and Ethereum and NFTs. And because in the end, the fundamental thing that you really care about in that scenario is just money. Like you just want to save your value. You don't want to be out. And the reason why I think this is because for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been monitoring the search traffic for key search terms in crypto when I kind of make my decisions about trends, because I like to analyze, like, is alt season going to start? Because I want to deploy. If alt season is going to start, I'm going to make some Bitcoin. Or are we going to have a continued bear market? And so one of the things I look at is like the Google search trends, and I look for patterns in the Google search trends, and I look all over the world and see like, where are people searching for what? So right now, but based on volume, TVL, all that stuff, you can see there's a decline in interest in a lot of this stuff. But even search traffic, if you look at for the last, say, like even all through the bear market in Nigeria, they were looking for Bitcoin. So it's like if you look at the USA and Canada and pretty much everywhere, you can see like Bitcoin spikes in 2017 when the FOMO happened, and then crypto spikes right after it. Ethereum kind of spikes, but never really gets anywhere. And then it all shrinks off a cliff. Into 2019, there was another spike when the plus token Ponzi was happening, because that was super popular. And the spike was more so in Asian countries, because that's where the plus token Ponzi was most prevalent. And that pumped us. Bitcoin went up to 13K, if you remember, and then ETH went up too, and everybody's like, yeah, it's starting. The institutions, the institutions are here. But it was really just this freaking Ponzi scheme that pumped everything in crypto, and then it crashed after they got arrested and they had to dump all their coins. And then it took us a little while, but then GameStop, you can see a massive spike in GameStop. It got up to the same fever pitch of Bitcoin in 2017. Dogecoin, crazy spike up. NFTs had not as much of a spike, but a good spike. Ethereum never really had a spike. And it was actually crypto this cycle all over the world that was more search terms. You know, it wasn't Ethereum, DeFi. DeFi never registered. Nobody gives a shit about DeFi anywhere in the world. People care about NFTs, crypto, Ethereum a little bit, DeFi even less. Bitcoin is the big one. Like people care about Bitcoin. And that's been for the last few years. I have never seen anything spike above Bitcoin except for NFTs in Asia right now. Over the last 2 months, it's insane. In South Korea, in China, in Japan, it's fever pitch right now. The NFTs are going crazy right now in the Asian countries. I find that's really interesting because like you don't see that level of crazy speculation happening in any of the other countries or even here. But like put that backdrop, like all that stuff I just talked about, on the search volume for countries that have hyperinflationary currencies, countries that have financial oppression, countries like Nigeria. 200 million people live in Nigeria. They've got a super high inflation in their currency. They need Bitcoin. Like the people that live in Nigeria, they're searching for Bitcoin always. When you see the spikes in Dogecoin and NFTs and crypto and GameStop in Nigeria, they barely even register. Like those people that actually need Bitcoin for the utility of like saving and using it for protecting themselves against their government and their currency, they don't have the privilege to be able to go and speculate on shitcoins and go adopt the next trend of whatever it is. So I really do think that as we continue in this world of like more and more censorship, potential stagflation or depression, or like even just not even depression, just recession, like put yourself back in the mindset of 2008, 2009. If you're listening to this and you were around then, you know, like it was the time where you had to scrimp and save and you weren't probably spending a lot of money on extracurricular stuff. And people tend to go like they come back off the risk curve when the financial conditions are not so frothy. And when the wealth effect evaporates from having a real piece of real estate that went up 3x in 10 years, you feel rich. Most people, the majority of their assets are their home. And if their home's up 3x, they get $1 million house, they feel rich. So they take money and they go speculate, they go buy things, they go travel, they upgrade their homes, whatever they do. But when the market cools off like that and it starts to crash and gets into recession territory, you know, I do fully expect to see the users of DeFi, BSC, Pancake Swap, Uniswap, like all the different chains, even if they're cheap, Solana, everything. I expect to see it come down as people care less and less about speculative, you know, taking risk. The only thing that I think will change that is gaming, because people, even during 2008, 2009, 2010, loved playing games. That's when the Facebook game trend
2009
kicked off. It was crazy. People look for they look for entertainment to escape their problems. So GameFi, game tokens, whatever. I don't think people should necessarily be like super like looking to invest in game tokens at high valuations. But I do think that like blockchains will be used for NFTs long term, for things like digital collectibles, digital game assets, digital art. I've no doubt that that's here to stay. The idea of having digital game assets is just here, and it's never going to be put back in the box, just like Bitcoin was never going to be able to be put back in the box. I think the problem is that people are selling NFTs as if it's this new technology that like is going to make them rich and disintermediate the middleman, and therefore they're fleecing a lot of people, and people are getting wrecked on investing in this stuff. They shouldn't be looked at really as investments. They should be just looked at as a technology, as like a tool, like a stable coin. You know, like an NFT that you buy from an influencer that you like will eventually, everybody's going to be using it. Like it's going to be like, there's going to be trillions of NFTs. So they will eventually will figure this out, that this was a bubble. The technology is interesting. We're building it on Bitcoin. There's NFTs on the Liquid network. We have Tarot coming out on the Lightning network. Like there's going to be digital art and NFTs on Bitcoin. There is already digital art and NFTs on Counterparty with the rare Pepes and stuff. So it's going to get built on Bitcoin, but it's going to be done, I'm sure, on Solana and other chains too, BSC. Like Binance is not going anywhere. They're the biggest exchange. So for your question, I think I would answer like,
and I want to remind you, the question was, do you think Ethereum and crypto will continue to grow and gain usership within the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So in this environment, over the next few years, I don't think it's going to grow users. I think what's going to grow users in crypto and maybe Ethereum, but I think more so off Ethereum. I think like the other next layer, next gen stuff is more suited for these types of use cases like games. I don't think DeFi is going to get used very much at all, ever. I just don't think it's that interesting. I think the only thing interesting about DeFi is like being able to take loans and do micro loans and things like that. I think all these Ponzi schemes that are built with DeFi protocols are just going to prove to be just failures, and just nobody's going to want to adopt that stuff because it's too risky and it doesn't make any sense. All the yield is unsustainable. But the thing that people are going to always want to do is play games and have fun. And if you can do that on blockchains, it does make sense that we would see that. Like Wax actually is the most used blockchain of any of them right now. Wax has more users and more transactions, but nobody buys Wax coin really. Like Wax coin's wrecked. Nobody even knows about Wax. But Wax has partnerships with Tops and all these like pretty big companies.
Another Novogratz winner, you know?
So I do think that like you will see more users on crypto blockchains if, you know, if the Federal Reserve comes in and starts printing and provides liquidity and we get another 10-20 trillion dollars printed, and the Fed actually comes in and can stop this recession from happening, and they reinflate all the bubbles, like the tech stocks start going again, growth stocks, they solve the problems of the bond market. Look, I don't know what the likelihood of this happening is. But if that happens, then yeah, I think there's going to be more FOMO, you know, because it'll be safe to go back out under the risk curve. And then there may be opportunity in crypto and buying coins and stuff, because we will never have reconciled. There will be no capitulation. There will be no reconciliation. People won't go back and look and say, well, maybe it was a mistake to value these things based on utility and TVL and stuff. But if over the next 6 months, the Fed, 6 to 12 months, the Fed, the Treasury, the commercial banks, they all work together to like reinflate markets and flood the system with more cash and do more lending, I'm sure there's going to be opportunity to make money alpha over Bitcoin by trading cryptocurrencies in that environment. If that doesn't happen, I think they're going down another 50, 60, 70, 80%. Like some of them are going to go down 95%, 99%. You're going to have like the dragon chains and the salt lendings and all these things of the last cycle where everybody was like, these Disney's involved with dragon chain and salt lendings is the first DeFi lending app, whatever. Well, the SEC came in and have other words for those things. They had to do rescission. They still exist, but they're down like 99%. There's going to be a lot more stories like that.
For sure. For sure. I think we can both agree on that.
What do you think?
Oh, I think Ethereum and crypto will continue to gain usership within the next 5 to 10 years. I think like back 2018, 2019, 2020, when I was really getting into crypto full time, I wasn't sure. And I was like listening to these Bitcoin maximalists and they were making some great points. I think there's so many great Bitcoin only, like yourself, people to go to podcasts and such to get great Bitcoin information. But I found, especially back then, perhaps it's changed now, there was a lack of information when it came to crypto, and you really didn't learn that much. And everything was just kind of like the same scam. Dogecoin is the same as ETH, which is the same as this. But I think, I agree with Travis Kling, just put out a great statement, a press release and Twitter thread talking about how he's going, his fund, whatever it's called, the Keiser, is going from what it just used to basically trade Bitcoin and try and beat the Bitcoin market. And now they're going more into gaming, like you mentioned, and L1s and just crypto in general. I mean, he laid out why the use case for crypto is more clear. So I think I'm hugely bullish on Bitcoin. I think that's going to continue to lead the market, but I think Ethereum and crypto are going to continue to gain usership in the next 5 to 10 years. But Brad,
what do you think
yes,
the risks are though of the regulators coming in and kind of having an effect on that, like a dampening effect?
Definitely possible. Definitely possible. And actually, you know, like back in 2016, 17, if you talk to a Bitcoiner, they would have said dude, if the regulators knew, I think the guy, a Lightning guy said this, if the regulators knew what's going on in Ethereum right now, they would shut it all down. Nobody would be allowed to do it. And like the sentiment was, so much just bad stuff is going on. When the state comes in, you know, they're going to really crack down on this. And back then there was no regulations. There's no clarity in regulations. I think what we've seen in the past several years is clarity, and actually the SEC and the regulators being pretty lenient. I know in 2020, or maybe it was 2020, when PayPal got involved, and not just with Bitcoin, but with ETH too. You know, PayPal's so tight with Wall Street. When Canada and Australia is listing Ethereum ETFs, when notable people, like back in 2017, people came into crypto without really knowing about it. But in the past couple of years, we've seen notable people come into crypto, like Mr. Wonderful, Canadian, and, you know, really understand, you know, he understands like the differences. Mark Cuban telling the Bitcoin maximalists their argument back to them in the Bitcoin spaces, and they both disagreed. But I certainly think that when the regulators, as they continue, I think it's just going to be more clarity. I mean, even the people they find like EOS or Telegram, it's just been like slaps on the wrist.
So what do you think about the idea, though, that like the regulators will create an environment that will make it less attractive to speculate on the coins, because most of the money that came in this cycle was money from like registered, like regulated funds, like A16Z types like that have US connections, and they're all trying to play nice with regulators, all the exchanges and everything. And you've seen a lot of DeFi apps like Uniswap and Compound like actually just straight up comply with regulators and like exclude Americans, and MetaMask and Infura, like they're enforcing the OFAC list and stuff, and people are losing access to stuff. I mean, to me, it's like the writing's on the wall that all these guys made all this money this cycle by playing regulatory arbitrage with their crypto pre-mines, and they want to play nice. They don't want to go to jail. They made billions of dollars this last cycle. They don't want to go to jail. So when the regulators do finally come in, which to me, it's been like you got a good point about them not making a big stink over finding people. Like what's $20 million when you raise 4 billion with EOS? Even Floyd Mayweather only got fined like $200,000 for shilling stocks ICO last cycle, and then he did it again with Ethereum Max this cycle because he didn't care.
Like 5 different things, dude. NFT projects. The guy is a problem for his followers in the crypto space.
So like you have a point about that, but like I do think there's a real policy risk of them stomping out the exchanges from allowing to trade all these different things that they may classify as securities. And then that because most of those guys want to play nice with the regulators, like FTX pretty much like wants very badly, I guess, to be spared from any kind of negative stuff. So they're all donating money to Biden's campaign and working closely with the regulators. So,
and we all know how much Biden loves to serve his donors. I mean, what another little green flag there.
So, but I mean, like when, Gary Gensler from the SEC has been pretty clear about what all this stuff has been shirking securities laws. And even Hester Pierce, who's been pretty much a libertarian when it comes to regulating the space, she's been pretty much like just hands off, just let the market figure it out. We shouldn't be picking winners and losers as the SEC. We should just be protecting investors. So even her, who's been for years, she did the safe harbor thing. Even her, she came out negatively against this stuff recently after Terra Luna collapsed, because she was like, we didn't do our job. We didn't do our job. We didn't protect investors. So like, I think after Terra Luna collapsed, and one of the theories was that the SEC doesn't want to be responsible for crashing a market because their mandate is to protect investors. And if a bubble forms, they don't want to be the pin that pops it. They want to be, they don't want to be seen as the reason why crypto and NFTs popped, because there's tens of millions of people now that are messing around with this stuff and have their money tied up in it. But once it pops naturally based on its own accord, which it's doing right now, then it's more likely that they can come in and sweep up the mess and enforce the regulations because they didn't cause the pop. It's like they won't be blamed for crashing crypto. Crypto crashed on its own, and now they can enforce the regulations. So a lot of people think that over the next 6 months to a year or whatever, it's not like all the people who are doing the ICOs and the DeFi coins and the NFT launches and stuff are going to get in trouble because there's just too much of it that happened. They don't have enough staff to actually enforce the rules on all this stuff. It was just chaos. But what they can do is come in and enforce it at the VC and crypto level, crypto exchange level. So they can put restrictions on the VCs, put restrictions on Galaxy and, things that are tied to public markets and the crypto exchanges, and say, look, this is illegal securities. You can't trade it. And like, what's your thoughts on the risk of that happening? What do you think that'll do to the coin prices?
That is definitely a risk, and that would not be good for the coin prices. And that is, that's still a risk. I think over the past years, the trend has actually been in a positive crypto direction, which kind of surprised some people. But what you're saying is definitely a risk. And there's like a whole spectrum of how they could regulate it. And if they went too hard because of all the bad ideas like Luna and all the things that, got hacked or crashed like Luna, they could, do some damage to the prices and just like the building in general. I think like the genie's out of the box. So these kinds of things would just like probably propagate, off out of the US, but that wouldn't be great for me who's in the US. But I mean, what you're saying is definitely that is a possibility. But I think over the past few years, I mean, cryptocurrency exchanges are allowed to become banks. Banks are allowed to custody and run a node for crypto. I mean, all this like clarity stuff is like, I think the trend has been in the opposite direction with positive clarity. Now that could change. They could really crack down. I think it would be a mistake, but that's surely a possibility.
Well, just to put a clarification on that one, it's Kraken that got the SBDI bank license, and they only do it with Bitcoin, so that they only have your Bitcoin on Kraken is protected under that SBDI bank license thing. But yeah, Kraken got the license, but as far as I know, none of the other exchanges yet have gotten that banking license, and using that to protect your Dogecoin or your Shiba Inu or something like that from bankruptcies and stuff like that.
Good clarification. Yeah, good clarification. I'm not sure. I know it was Kraken. I don't know it's just Bitcoin, but still, perhaps a precedent has been set, or maybe it's just for Bitcoin. Who knows?
The law actually is for all crypto assets, like crypto assets or whatever. So in Wyoming, like it wasn't a Bitcoin law; it was a cryptocurrency law. Yeah. But the way it was applied with Bitcoin only so far, as far as I know, it's only been applied with Bitcoin.
Oh, but I mean, the law is like,
but it does open it up. Yeah, it opens it up for an exchange that wants to do that with any coin could do that.
Okay, Brad, this is great. I do not want to go over 2 hours. You have officially become the longest podcast we've ever done. This is great, though. I love it. You're providing so much good insights. Love your perspective. I have 3 questions left. Feel free to answer as little or as much as you like. Fire. Yeah. Okay. And these are like fun questions. What do you think there's been a lot of shit coins in the past, but now that we're in 2022 going into 2023, what are the 3 to 5 biggest shit coins in the market?
Well, I would say the US dollar, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500.
All right. You're not going to say Hex or some of the stuff you normally.
Oh, you mean cryptocurrency?
Yes, of course. Yes. What are the 3 biggest?
They're not as
altcoin shitcoins.
They're not as altcoins. Okay. I would say. Well, let's look at the chart here. Let me see.
Feel free to share your screen, but you don't have to. It's better with our faces.
I mean, Hex is getting wrecked lately. Is it even big anymore?
Down 90%, just like all cryptos. But there's really.
Yeah, I would say, let's see. Celsius is a. How about I say what's the biggest risk of collapse?
Sure, 3 to 5.
Because like the Celsius coin is already destroyed. I mean, it's pretty wrecked, so it's not really a big shit coin anymore. But I've been kind of harping on that one for a year because of the risks involved in that one. It's 300 million market cap, which is not that big, but I wouldn't be investing in the Celsius coin, but I for sure wouldn't have my funds in the Celsius app. I think anybody that's still drinking the Celsius Kool-Aid should take their funds off Celsius immediately, because it's not worth the risk in a bear market of having them lose more money in another hack like Badger, because they take your money and they deposit it into DeFi shit, and DeFi shit gets hacked all the time. So they just barely missed the Luna collapse. They had $500 million exposed to the Terra Luna ecosystem collapse, and they took it out like within the day or two of its collapse. So they just missed that one. That could have been the nail in the coffin for Celsius. Plus so Celsius their CFO, the CFO was arrested for fraud and stuff too. So it's like, man, avoid Celsius. It's not just Maxi FUD. It's like, I got Mount Gox coins still. Like, don't be me. Like, I got Gox, man. Just don't take the risk. It's not worth the 10%. Just take your funds off Celsius. BlockFi is less risk, but still I don't advocate for it. Celsius is the extreme risk, I'd say, in the middle. Crypto.com.
So Celsius is a big shitcoin in 2022. What else? We need like at least 2 more.
Well, Hex for sure, because Hex and Pulse Chain and Pulse X, the whole ecosystem of Richard
Two of
Hart
those haven't
coins.
launched yet.
Yeah, I know, but they're gonna be like I consider them all the same thing because like Richard Hart owns all of it, right? Ethereum is probably the other big one.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Brad. And now on the flip side, again, there's been a lot of coins that have done better than others in Bitcoin's past 13 years. But now we're looking at 2022, looking forward. What are your top 3 to 5 altcoins?
I think BitShares needs to have a comeback. I'm just kidding. Maybe Aurora coin. No. I mean, honestly, if Elon Musk does have a swollen brain and like he's autistic enough, like maybe he will make Dogecoin the currency of the world. So probably Dogecoin.
Be serious. I mean, seriously, man, what 3 to 5 coins do you think are like halfway decent? Not that you're encouraging it. Like, don't you invest in some like these altcoins, unless you're serious about Dogecoin? You think it's like could have potential?
Well, dude, look, if Elon Musk actually is going to put his efforts towards it, I don't think he will, but like that has a chance to go down another, go down to a penny by the time this cycle's done, and then go to $1 in the next cycle and do 100x. Like it's possible. You know what I mean? Like Doge always has this crazy capitulative, like negative 95%, and then every cycle it rips again. So if you're talking about the next cycle, it's probably going to be Dogecoin again, right?
So Dogecoin number 1. I like it.
You don't want to play that too early though, because it could always go down another 90%.
I feel you. So we got Dogecoin. How about 2 at least more top altcoins 2022 and forward?
So I don't think anything's good 2022. I think we're talking 2023, 2024.
Okay, 2023, perfect.
What's one that gives you yield? Is there any that gives you yield in Bitcoin, like Thor chain or something like that? But you got to run a node for that, right? It's risky.
I'm not sure if it pays out yield in Bitcoin or what it is, but I know that it is no KYC and you can do stuff with Bitcoin.
One sec. Well, I lost your voice. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's tough, man. Like there's Monero is always a good one to for privacy advocacy, but it never does well. Like it doesn't do good. So it's
okay. We got Doge tricky. And Monero.
Doge, Monero.
Just one more at least. I know this is hard.
If Binance continues on its global domination of cryptocurrency users signing up to cryptocurrency trading exchanges, then the BNB token should do really well eventually. It's going to get wrecked probably in the bear market, but then CZ's a powerhouse, so he's probably going to continue pouring most of his energy into BNB. But there's going to be new shit launched. I think like there's most of the opportunity is going to be probably in whatever the new bubble meme is in the next cycle.
I feel you. Like play to earn type games or like X to earn.
Yeah, or like quantum coin or alien coin.
The meme coins again.
No, like when the aliens come down and give us the technology, they're going to be like, there's going to be a cryptocurrency that they have, duh. So whatever the alien coin is, let's get you some of that.
I like it. All right, Brad. And as my final question.
Oh, wait, when Ripple defeats the SEC and the banks all adopt Ripple and they move on to the ISO 2 standard, Ripple's going to go to $521.
Thank you, BitBoy. Thank you. No, just kidding. But all right, my final question, Brad, is Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2024, Bitcoin and Ethereum price predictions.
2024, I'd say Bitcoin 1 million, Ethereum 500.
And we're talking about like the top, near the top.
No, this is 2030. By 2030, I'd say Bitcoin 1 million, Ethereum 500.
Okay. Brad, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Awesome to have you. final thoughts for the Altcoin Daily audience.
Hey, thanks for listening. This is a long episode. If you want to learn more about Bitcoin fundamentals, I'd suggest come hang out with us on Clubhouse. If there's still a thriving crew of toxic Bitcoin maxis on Clubhouse. Sometimes we're grumpy if the price is down. Sometimes we're in a willing mood to chat and entertain people's questions about NFTs and cryptos and DeFi and whatever. But I'm always there. I love discussing this stuff. As you can tell, I dragged this on 2 hours instead of Aaron's original 30 minutes you wanted to do. So I love talking about this stuff. I mean, I'm a closet degen myself, so I love getting into the weeds, even if it's just like a one-on-one conversations or whatever. So always find me in Clubhouse. I'll be in like the Cafe Bitcoin room or the Master Bitcoin Today room, or the Black Bitcoin Billionaires room sometimes. So yeah, come join us on Clubhouse. And honestly, it's high risk right now to be trying to seek yield in crypto. So I think this is the time you got to start learning about sort of taking custody of your keys and fundamental knowledge of why Bitcoin is different from everything else, and spend the time to learn more about Bitcoin and start entertaining the idea that maybe the things that have been proven to be the value narratives of the last cycle are not what made this stuff go up in value, and just be open to the concept of what the maxis say sometimes about this stuff is all competing with Bitcoin, and really understand what Bitcoin is and what makes Bitcoin valuable. Once you understand what makes Bitcoin valuable, then I think that will help you in your next cycle, because if you really get Bitcoin and you're Kool-Aid resistant, just like Bitcoin is censorship resistant, then you'll be able to just trade the cycles, and you'll be able to trend follow and stack more sats through trading and doing proper risk management. And lastly, read the book Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, or listen to the audiobook Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. It's an excellent book for just learning about trading psychology and markets that is timeless.
Awesome. Links to all Brad's stuff in the description. I like Brad. I follow Brad. I encourage everybody to go do that. And thanks so much, Brad. See everybody tomorrow.
Thanks, man.